Thanks very much. With us now is former Democratic presidential candidate and Vermont Independent Senator Bernie Sanders. Senator Sanders, as of right now, are you a no vote on the continuing resolution as it stands?
Yes. I think what is going on, to me, is very clear. That the Republicans really want to shut down the government for whatever reason. Where we are, Anderson, is not complicated. As you know, in the United States Senate, you need 60 votes to pass this budget resolution. Mitch McConnell doesn't have 60 votes. He doesn't have it. He knows he doesn't have it. The option that he has now is to say, okay, I don't have the 60 votes. Let us sit down and negotiate. Let us work in a nonpartisan way to address the crises facing this country. Last night, you may have heard this, we received a tweet from the Pentagon. And what the Pentagon told us is they need a fully funded fiscal year 2018 budget or face ramifications for our military. This is the Pentagon. They cannot function on a month-to-month basis. We are a $4 trillion government. We need to have an annual budget because what's going on now is very, very dangerous and wasteful for our country. Many, many crises that have not even been addressed. We cannot keep kicking the can down the road.
Well, the Republicans, obviously, and the White House are saying, well, look, it's the Democrats who seem to want to shut down that by forcing the issue on immigration, on DACA, which is something that could be done a week from now.
That is not true. Here, again, is the situation, and let the viewers make their decision. Mitch McConnell does not have 60 votes. And if he goes forward tonight at 10 o'clock, as I understand he will lose. Therefore, the government will shut down. Understanding that, what a rational person who does not want to shut down the government does is say, okay, I don't have the 60 votes. I can't do it alone with the Republicans. We have to sit down and negotiate. What do you want? Let's go forward. That is what has to happen. But unfortunately, for whatever reason, I mean, they may think politically that a shutdown works to their benefit. You'll remember way back when the president, Donald Trump, was talking about how maybe the country needs a good government shutdown. I don't know. But I think it will be a very unfortunate thing. McConnell has got to start negotiating. And it's not just about DACA. We are 3.5 months into the fiscal year. 3.5 months. We still don't have an annual budget. You know what that means? It means 27 million people in community health centers have not received refunding, the new funding authorization. It means that 30,000 vacancies at the Veterans Administration are still not filled. It means we have a heroin and opioid epidemic sweeping this country. We are not addressing it. We have a collapsing infrastructure. We are not addressing it. So we have real work to do, and we can't simply have a dysfunctional government which doesn't address our problems and passes a continuing resolution month by month by month.
So if Mitch
that is not what we're paid to do.
If Mitch McConnell did come and say, okay, look, we don't have the votes, let's negotiate, it would be the points you would want are DACA and a more permanent budgetary solution.
And a disaster relief. Do you know that right now, 4 months after the terrible hurricanes in Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands, Texas, Florida, in Puerto Rico, you have tens of thousands of people who still don't have electricity. We're the wealthiest country in the history of the world. So what we need to do is to figure out a way as to how we're going to address the problems facing working families, how we're going to deal with disaster relief, how we're going to adequately fund the military. Last night, a poll came out. And what the poll, a CBS poll, it said 87% of the American people believe that we should provide legal status to the 800,000 dreamers in this country. 87% of the American people, an astronomical number, and yet after 3.5 months of this fiscal year, the Republican leadership has not been serious about addressing the crisis facing the dreamers.
When the White House says, look, the Democrats are hurting children if the government shuts down because there's funding for CHIP, for the Children's Health Insurance Program, something Democrats have wanted for a long time.
You know, the cynicism here has no end. 3.5 months into the fiscal year, they have not funded the CHIP program, which, if brought to the floor 3.5 months ago, would have probably got 90 or 100 votes. The Community Health Center program. 1 out of 4 people in my state of Vermont get their primary health care through community health centers. This program is like 50 years old. It's supported by Democrats. It is supported by Republicans. They haven't reauthorized that program. So we have many issues out there that have got to be dealt with. And all that we are saying is to the Republican leadership, you control the House, the Senate, and the White House. Govern. Don't keep passing these 1 month continuing resolutions, which the Pentagon, it is really hurting the Pentagon. It is hurting so many aspects of our country. And once again, Mitch McConnell knows right now he does not have the votes. And if he goes forward and he loses, it is Mitch McConnell and our Republican colleagues who are shutting down this government.
So that's your message to federal workers who may not be getting a paycheck if there's a shutdown tonight. Because I mean, I should point out, members of Congress still get paid, unlike those federal workers. But you say it's Mitch McConnell's fault. It's the Republicans' fault.
Let me repeat. He does not have the votes. He knows he does not have the votes. Why do you go forward in losing rather than sitting down and negotiating an agreement in a bipartisan way? And here is the good news. When you talk about disaster relief, I think we can reach an agreement pretty quickly. When 87% of the American people support legal status for the Dreamers and a path towards citizenship, I think we can reach an agreement. There's good legislation that has been brought forth by Senator Durbin and Senator Graham. We can reach an agreement in terms of how much we spend on the military and how much we spend on the needs, the domestic needs of working families. I believe that you bring people together in a few days, you can address these crises. But we can't do it unless there is negotiations, and the Republicans cannot simply say, here it is, you take it or leave it. That is not the way that we can run a government.
You mentioned a poll a second ago. I want to show you a new CNN poll today. It says 31% of people would blame Democrats for a shutdown. Does that concern you?
Sure it does. Look, I don't want a shutdown. I think a shutdown is bad for millions of people who depend on government services, certainly bad for federal employees. It is a bad thing. And that's why I hope that the Republicans understand that they have to negotiate and they just cannot do whatever they want.
Mick Mulvaney, who's the director of the Office of Management and Budget, he cited you today in a briefing, quoting something you said about a shutdown back in 2013. I just want to play that for our viewers.
Bernie Sanders, one of my favorite. What they are saying, by the way, this was of me back in 2013 in the group that was trying to figure out a way to force a debate on Obamacare repeal. What they are saying to the American people tonight is maybe we have lost the presidential election. Maybe we've lost seats in the Senate and the House. This is Sanders talking now, 2013. It doesn't matter. We can now bring the government to a shutdown, throw some 800,000 hardworking Americans out on the street. We're going to get our way no matter what. This is exactly what they accused the Republicans of doing back in 2013.
How do you respond to that?
Well, let me respond. What Mr. Mulvaney is talking about is his desire to repeal Obamacare when President Obama was the president. Not very likely. So what they would do is shutting down the government to throw tens of millions of Americans off of health care, which is terrible unto itself. But obviously, Barack Obama was not about to repeal Obamacare. What we are talking about today is to address the crisis facing Dreamers. This was a crisis precipitated by Donald Trump when he rescinded Obama's executive order. You have hundreds of thousands of young people frightened to death about their future, whether or not they're in fact going to lose their legal status and whether they will be subjected to deportation. This is a little bit different, I think, than repealing Obamacare.
Just lastly, the meeting tonight at 8:30 with Senate Democrats, I'm wondering what you expect to come of it or what you hope to hear or expect.
Honestly, Anderson, I really don't know. I'm very anxious to get down there and see what will be discussed. I just don't know.
Are you saying you want to end the interview? I'm kidding. We'll let you go.
I'm delighted to talk to you.
No. You got to go to the meeting. Senator Sanders, I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
We're going to be following late developments live.